morning, everybody, and welcome to Coffee and Football, presented by the good folks at Vaughn Lane. I'm your host, Blake Monroe, where I'm joined each and every day by Bobby Burton and Jerry Hamilton. Be sure to tell us where you're checking in from this morning. Tell us what you're drinking. Get your questions in. Of course, we are 93 days away. So tell us your favorite number 93 as well. There's a few more choices than yesterday.
It's going to be a runaway winner, but there are a few more choices.
Yes, definitely a lot more to choose from when it comes to 93. And guys, yesterday, I want to open with this. A storm rolls through Austin yesterday afternoon. A lot of Texas, of course, was impacted by storms yesterday, but a little damage to Dish Falk Field just, less than 48 hours before the first pitch of the regionals when Texas takes on Houston Christian. Of course, that game's scheduled for tomorrow at 1 o'clock. But Athletic Director Chris Del Conte promising people that it's going to be ready to go, fellas. He said on social media yesterday that Longhorn fans have nothing to worry about, that it will be taken care of in time.
I saw Chris Del Conte about the time that this happened. So, I think that's just CJ was sending us photos and video of the hail in Austin yesterday. When I say it got hit, it got hit.
Yeah.
Hopefully everybody is okay there. I know they lost power at the Dish last night as well and surrounding areas. So I hope everything's okay. And I hope Texas is able to start the regional against Houston Christian.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, also,
by the way, that's significant damage a day and a half before.
Oh, yeah.
This isn't I'm sure they'll get it back to working order, but it'll just be working order. That's significant damage to fix in a day and a half.
Well, I will say this, at least with a baseball field, there's nothing wrong with the actual field, right?
Right.
It's if there's a pop-up to one of the sides that it becomes an issue, but at least there's nothing on a field of play on a baseball diamond. So we'll see, but I hope more importantly, I hope everybody's safe from those storms.
And that's left center field, correct?
Yeah.
And also, we need to give credit where credit is due. Those pictures come from the Joey Barnett on X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it nowadays. So credit to him for those pictures. They definitely aren't ours. And then speaking of baseball, we need to jump over to softball because
here we go. It's go time.
Yes, at 11 a.m. Central Time, they will be taking on Florida in a big game. So, of course, the guys had on Leanne Good yesterday, last night. And if you missed that interview and you're a softball fan, you definitely want to check out the live stream from last night. But taking on the Florida Gators here in less than 3 hours.
11 a.m. Central on ESPN. And the schedule for today is Florida, Texas, Tennessee, Oklahoma. Break, come back, Texas Tech, Ole Miss, Oregon, UCLA. All 8 teams play today, game 1. But 11 a.m. Central, Florida, Texas will meet. And that's a huge game. I mean, obviously, you don't want to drop game 1 because your back's automatically against the wall. So the first game, there's a lot on the line in this first game, guys. It's just I don't want to call it a must-win game, but it's a very, very, very much need-to-win game. Texas took 2 of 3 from Florida in Gainesville earlier this season, 7-2, 13-7, then lost the final game 1-3, 3-1. I should say 1-3, 3-1. So that Texas has won that first series against Florida this year, but this is pretty much for these two teams. It's an all the marbles game for these two teams because you want to hit. You do not want to go to the losers bracket out of the gate.
2 in barbecue,
yes.
And to Jerry's point, getting off to a big start in an 8-team tournament compared to a 4-team tournament. At least in a 4-team tournament, you have that chance. But you start off down in an 8-team tournament in the immediate losers bracket. You're almost, what is it, 95, 97%, you're not going to win that tournament.
Right.
It becomes more difficult. You have to play almost twice as many games, etc. So good stuff. Thanks for having Leanne on last night, by the way. I thought that was good stuff to promote women's softball for the University of Texas last night. Rod and CJ and those guys, or Rod and Jeff, had them on, and I thought that was good.
Bobby, I know you got to talk about the SEC meetings, but before you do that, I need Jerry to tell everyone about Vaughn Lane.
I can definitely do that. Warm up the bus. It's Vaughn Lane read time. Driving yourself on I-35, I-45, or I-10 is very stressful. Airports, long lines, security lot, stress, cramped seats. Just getting to your destination feels, well, exhausting. Next time you need to travel between Austin, Dallas, Houston, and Fort Worth, skip the stress and ride Vaughn Lane, your private jet on wheels. Rod Babers can attest to that. He's been on it multiple times. Arrive just minutes before departure. That's another thing. At one of Vaughn Lane's centrally located luxurious hotel partners. Settle into your spacious reclining seat with tons of legroom and personal space. Enjoy complimentary snacks, drinks, Wi-Fi, and even select meals on select departures, all while you sit back and relax. Experience travel the way it should be. Visit VaughnLane.com and use that promo code OTF25 for $20 off your first trip. Vaughn Lane, first class travel without the hassle, and that has more meaning by the day.
It really, I mean, dude, I'm telling you, I hate TSA. And I've got the, I don't know about you guys, but I've got the TSA pre.
Mm-hmm.
And now the TSA pre line, everybody has it. So it's as far back, if not the regular line. So I don't know what to do, man. Hey, I am, as you can tell, I'm probably back in my home office here. I drove back, speaking of driving, I drove back from Destin. Vaughn Lane does not have a bus from Destin back to my house. Late last night, getting in after midnight, actually. The reality of the SEC meetings, and my takeaway is this: there is a lot of hubbub around the college football playoff and whether or not they'll go from 12 to 16 teams or 14 teams. The Big Ten came out yesterday and said they're not voting for a 5 and 11 format, 5 conference champions, 11 at-large bids. The Big 12 said, okay, we like the 5-11. The SEC said, maybe the 5-11 is fine. Maybe it needs to be 4-4-2. Here's what I know based on listening to Greg Sankey for Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. The SEC is not going to be pushed into anything or manipulated into anything. The Big Ten wants, you got to have 9 conference games for us to. You know what will happen if the SEC doesn't want to go to 9 games? They'll just keep with 12-team playoff. That's all that'll happen. They'll just stay with the 12-team playoff and let it run its course and see what happens. But the SEC is not going to get pushed into anything or manipulated. I think that the Big Ten, the Big 12, and the ACC are all trying to push this up against the SEC as the big bad boys on the block, and they're the ones causing all the problems. Greg Sankey just said, look, we'll just keep it the way it is. I don't think it'll stay the way it is, but if we can't agree to something, we'll just keep it the way it is. And so he doesn't feel this, and I will say this, it's nice whenever you're the SEC and you have more money than the Big 12 or ACC that definitely want this.
And you have to leverage on ESPN for contract.
Yeah, exactly. All of those things. And so he's just not, he doesn't feel this, he feels some urgency if he's going to change, but he's not going to sit there and overcommit the SEC or make a deal that isn't clearly, it doesn't even have to be beneficial. It just has to be fair to what he sees his property is worth. And right now, people are trying, and I also love this about Greg Sankey, people are trying to tell him what the SEC should do. Like, he goes, I don't tell other conferences what to do. Why do they presume they should be able to tell me what to do? You're not going to dictate whether we have 8 or 9 games. I mean, that's just not how the world works. So anyways, I felt leaving Destin last night, I felt like, the SEC is in great shape and great hands with Greg Sankey as commissioner. He has a ton of institutional knowledge. He's a measured, calculated executive, thoughtful, detail-oriented. I think they're in really good shape. I also want to say this for Texas fans. A year ago, I went to that meeting, and I felt like Texas was very much on the periphery, if that makes sense. Oh, the new guys in town. What are they going to be like? And you just kind of felt like you're trying to get your bearings, and even the coaches and all of that stuff. All the other coaches felt like they were more part of the conference. This year, it was a totally different feel. Now, maybe that's because Texas came in and did so well, but it was a totally different feel from a media perspective. I thought the coaches were more in tune. And I would just add this. I felt like this year, last year, it was on the periphery, like a feeling out phase. This year, I felt like it was welcome to the club. You're now one of us. So all of that, you know how it is when you go into someplace new and you're the new guy on the block. It definitely felt more like welcome to the club at the SEC spring meetings this year for the Longhorns. Personal opinion. And I think Chris Del Conte may echo that to some degree, but we'll see.
Sarah O said 82,000. Oh, we did go over 82,000.
Over 82,000.
Sorry, that's why I was quiet for a second.
That's A&M against Sanford attendance right there. We almost filled Kyle Field.
Oh, man. Good stuff. But, all right, let's talk recruiting for a little bit. And thank you, Sarah O, for pointing that out. Jerry, what do you got for us?
Yeah, we haven't talked about Bryce Perry Wright in a while, the defensive lineman out of Buford, Georgia, who has been on campus a couple of times. He'll officially visit June 13th. So kind of want to go over him a little bit because a lot of times we talk about the edge guys. A lot of times we talk about the interior D-line guys. But then you have the Bryce Perry Wright and Jeraylin McCoy, who are more of the 5-tech type of guys who can play some edge, who are going to be able to spin inside, who are going to carry 280-plus pounds in time, maybe 275, who are maybe a bigger version physically of Barron Sorrell with Bryce Perry Wright. So we hadn't talked about him in a while, hadn't watched the huddle in a while, a guy that Texas is very much in the hunt for. Had a great unofficial visit April, had really good in-home visit in May. I visited Auburn, I believe, 2 weekends ago officially. He's got Miami coming up. But I think the three teams right now are really Clemson, Texas, and Texas A&M. And I'm not saying Miami or Auburn, anybody can't win it. It's recruiting in the NIL day and age. I've said it 1,000 times. But I'm saying headed into June, I think those are the three maybe, and we'll see if Auburn makes up ground. We'll see what Miami has in store for that official visit. But there's some family connections to the Clemson staff. That's why a lot of people have thought Clemson for a while. I believe he's related to Grady Jarrett. That's why a lot of people have thought for a while that Clemson will eventually be the winner. We'll see, though. We'll see. Does he want to play in the SEC at the end of the day? If he does, and I think that's a real possibility, then Texas A&M is where a decision could come down to. And I'm not discounting Auburn, but for one of the top D linemen in the country who's at Buford, Georgia, really good player. I think Texas is very much in the hunt here. Same for Jeraylin McCoy, the other kind of 5-tech player that is coming in for an official visit. Jeraylin McCoy out of Tupelo, Mississippi, the one-time LSU commitment. I think Florida, Texas, LSU, Ole Miss. Those are your four for him through these official visits. But it'll be interesting to see where things kind of go here, because this is one that a lot of people have had in Bryce Perry Wright pegged for Clemson. And I think we should all let these OVs play out and see if that actually ends up being the case.
Jerry, on Jeraylin McCoy, just so you know, I was talking to some Florida reporters in Destin. They feel like Florida is really in that.
Yeah, for sure.
The young man out of Tupelo, Mississippi. Now they do know that Texas is probably the primary competition at this point.
Yeah.
But I was talking to actually somebody about him, and that was a name that came up.
Yeah. Drew Lockhart asked Bryce's lean. How big is he? 6'2" and change, 260-ish, 265-ish, right in that area. And I think he'll be a 275, 280-pound guy in time. Also, staying in the state of Georgia, look, Xavier Griffin obviously announcing June 29th, a month from today. I think Texas has some confidence there. Obviously, Alabama has some confidence there. We'll see which way it goes. I think the official visits have to play out. I think we're getting to that point. These visits coming up, really starting this weekend, the May 30th through June 1st weekend. This is Georgia's big visit weekend, right? This is a big visit weekend for Miami. And you're starting to see these big visit weekends start to take shape. But with Xavier Griffin, we shall see on that. Obviously, Alabama has some confidence. Texas has some confidence. We'll see which way it goes after these visits. Dre Quinn, edge prospect out of Greater Atlanta Christian in Norcross, Georgia, also posted some notes on OTF.com this morning. Texas very much in it. I think they had it followed up with a tremendous unofficial visit in April, the great in-home visit in May. So I think Texas is right there for one of the top edge prospects in the country, Dre Quinn. Clemson, Notre Dame, Tennessee, Georgia. I mean, it's a who's who recruitment. I think Texas remains confidence with KJ Edwards. I think there's some confidence with Hezzy Kent, with Mark Bowman. We'll see where that goes because there's picks for on both sides there. And remains confident for sure with Samari Matthews, especially with Clemson. They'll be longer being in the mix. Samari Matthews will visit Miami officially this week, and he replaced Clemson, who has 4 or 5 DB commits already, 4, I believe, with Miami, then South Carolina, then Texas, then Florida State, Texas, South Carolina. A couple of weeks ago on Samari Matthews, I was kind of told it looked like Texas was a slight favorite over then Clemson. Clemson got 2 or 3 other DB commits. So we'll see if Miami can make a big push there. But Texas in a good spot starting June with a number of guys, but I'm going to remain the same through all the picks that are going to come in both ways. Picks are going to be changed throughout the month as they have been. Remember, Jonah Williams had 4 picks at one point. He had picks to 4 different schools in the process. Picks are going to come in. Picks are going to change. It's marketing season around official visits, but we'll see how these things play out in June because I'm just here to tell you there are a lot. 99% of these recruitments are in the balance, no matter if the picks are coming in or not. They're in the balance.
I love that term, marketing season. I think that's a good one because, he's trending here. He's going. Look, they got to take visits. And we are going to follow these recruitments and tell you which way we think he's leaning. But until they make decisions, I could not agree more.
And there's some uncertainty with the House settlement and how that could affect some of these, recruitments. There's some schools that are trying to front end load an NIL deal right now. So you could think you're leading for somebody and poof, it's gone from a front-loaded NIL deal that somebody agrees to, and it's done in a matter of hours.
Well, Kirby Smart, listen to this. Kirby Smart talked yesterday at the SEC meetings, Jerry, that some colleges, he said no one in the SEC, said some colleges right now are doing NIL deals with high school players and paying them as much as $20,000 a month commit and stay committed to their school. And then if they ever decommit, there's a buyback period. This is from Ross Ellinger. Kirby Smart tells Yahoo Sports that collectives are striking deals with high school recruits to keep and gain their commitments, paying them as much as $20,000 a month in this unregulated market. If they decommit, they are being asked to return the compensation. And who are those teams, Jerry? He said it's nobody in the SEC.
Yep.
So take that away. Who would you guess, Jerry?
Well, I know where he just lost.
Miami,
USC. Yeah.
Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know who he was pointing the finger at, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. I mean, look, I don't have a lot of faith in the House settlement. I've said that from the outset, and I still don't. Look, there are elements of the House settlement that are going to be really good for college football, I think. There are elements that are just going to get trampled over quickly. So good luck to them. But I'm interested to see what happens with the House settlement. Like, why hasn't this been approved? Is the judge just taking her own sweet time right now? I guess, I mean, the only timeline she's on is her own.
Right.
But college football and recruiting season is approaching, if she hasn't noticed. And so you would think that the House settlement being verified or approved needs to happen fairly quickly.
Did you see? We should talk about this. When SEC coaches were asked for recruiting tips, Kirby Smart responded, relationships. Lane Kiffin said money, NIL, like that Georgia coach over there. He just outpays everybody.
Aye.
Dude, look, Lane Kiffin is funny.
Yes.
I mean, there's so that's a little bit of a joke. They know each other.
There was some sarcasm in there after.
Yeah. But I think it's very funny. The SEC coaches are in so many ways understand the environment better than many people at an elite level. Kiffin, guys, if you see Lance Kiffin, you would expect a real braggadocious, loud, outgoing, kind of gregarious, based on just his quotes. When he walks up to the mic, he talks like this and is really light with what he says and really soft, and you could barely hear him. I mean, literally, the mic can't pick him up sometimes. That's how soft he speaks.
Sounds like a plan.
Well, it may be, but he's done it 2 consecutive years now. Now I've seen him, and nobody acts like it's any big deal for him. But right. He talks like 5 decibels softer than the next football coach or athletic director. I mean, he's very soft spoken, which was totally the first time I heard it. I was like, first of all, that's not a football coach. I mean, a football coach has that booming voice that kind of carries. Not Lane Kiffin. He's kind of soft spoken. It kind of threw me. You know what I mean? Because you read the quotes and think you're going to get something else. Totally different.
I wanted to bring this question up real quick on Lamar Brown, because I do think it's a good question. Zane Petty said, can we really pull Brown, the defensive tackle from University Lab High in Baton Rouge? Look, I think anytime with those recruitments, you're a long shot until you're not. Because traditionally, prospects that come out of University Lab or Southern Lab, LSU has a major, major advantage in win percentage on. That doesn't mean all of them, but over history, yeah. So, I mean, if you just look, Marcus Spears, right? I mean, you could go down the list, Chad Jones, right? There's a lot of guys. Now, Christopher Allen, linebacker that came out of Southern Lab, he was committed to A&M, flipped to Bama in the NFL. There have been guys, obviously, that have not gone to LSU, but LSU's chances are traditionally in the 85 percentile range that they're going to win out those recruitments. But does that mean they are in today's day and age? In this landscape, especially since LSU is not perceived in state as maybe as good as they were from the Saban era through 2019. Brian Kelly, his personality fit. He's got to win big to make it all work there because he doesn't have the natural personality fit. We'll see. Lalen Clark obviously is a BR guy. He has a lot of connections there. It is possible, but let's just be realistic. Over 80% chance if you go to University Lab or Southern Lab, if LSU wants you, that's where you end up.
Unless Nick Saban is coaching.
Yes.
At Alabama. He was able to go into Baton Rouge because he was the former LSU coach and had some deep ties. But
Bobby, I know we're going to talk about this, but Brian Kelly said yesterday this is his best team he's had at LSU. They did great in the portal on defense. How quickly they pull it together is going to be the deal for them.
I agree. Brian Kelly said a lot yesterday. Yeah. One of the other things, really the biggest headline grab for him was that he said, I can speak for the coaches. It was rare that other coaches spoke for other coaches. I'm going to say that. But he said, I can speak for the other Big Ten or the other SEC coaches. We want an interconference matchup with the Big Ten.
Yeah.
They want one game a year against a Big Ten opponent. Will they get it? Greg Sankey said it's a long road to hoe before we get there, but it's something that's a possibility. But there's a lot of hay got to go into the barn first before they get there. But that was another thing. If this is his best team, he better make the playoffs.
Absolutely.
I think that in Brian Kelly, this is indicative of a coach who hasn't played in this level of conference before. I want to say that, Jerry. I mean, when he was at Notre Dame, he had a lot of Armies and Navies and Air Forces to play. You know what I mean? Now he's got to be really good every week. Let's see if he can actually do that and make that happen. They are talented at LSU. There's no doubt about it. Can they really put that defense together? Because it's been atrocious. Definitely not an LSU level defense.
No. They did good things in the portal at edge, in the secondary. They made some gains on defense there, but again, how quickly can they put that together? I'm going to bring up LSU's schedule real quick because we've looked at a lot of SEC teams' schedule, and since Brian Kelly said this is his best team, we've been looking at these schedules. Let's see. Yeah, they're at Brian Alfaro. And I've said this before. At Clemson is game one for them. That's either going to go really well or really terrible for Brian Kelly because that is the battle of the Tigers. They're going to have the same fight songs going in that stadium. But if he goes to Clemson and loses by 14, 17, 21 points in that game, because Clemson will be the favorite in that game, then his season, it's going to be very ugly for him in Baton Rouge. And then what does how does that season play out? Because there's so much negativity. Because they're going to be like, yep, he's not the guy. If he goes in and wins that game, then everything changes for LSU from a confidence standpoint. That's a really, really big game for Brian Kelly. Because you look after that, obviously Florida at home. Your road games in SEC player Ole Miss, Vanderbilt, Alabama, and Oklahoma. And then obviously you can see there your home games are, for those listening on podcast, your home games are South Carolina, A&M, Arkansas. With La Tech, Southern Louisiana, and Western Kentucky, I can see why he's also saying this is his best team. This is the best schedule he's had. This is the best schedule he's had, in my opinion, for him to make a move this year. And I'm not saying now or never mean he's going to be fired, but it's almost a now or never if you're going to ascend for him at LSU because Nussmeier's back year 2, got really good running back group. Now they have to replace 4 offensive linemen. I think 3 of those guys got drafted and they're really good players. But how quickly that Blake Baker can put those defensive pieces they got from the portal together is going to be huge because they do have a playoff schedule. If you look at that schedule, you can, and LSU ended up in the playoff, you would look back on that schedule and say, I can see it.
Their win total to 8.5 wins is what Vegas has it set out.
So they're saying they're going to lose Clemson and 2 others for sure, and then you got to bet on it.
Florida. I mean, right now I would pick – look, Billy Napier, I talked to a lot of Florida folks. They're cautiously excited about their team this year.
What was being said? Anything said behind the scenes on DJ Lagway's shoulder?
Yeah.
I know they're all going to say it's going to be fine, but I'm a little bit the opposite. I'm like, hey, hold on now.
It wasn't even behind the scenes. It was Billy Napier. I was in a group of about 7 or 8 reporters listening to Billy Napier off to the side talk about it. Lagway is throwing exactly 210 passes a week right now.
Yeah, he's on a pitch count.
Exactly. Yes, he is. 70 passes 3 days a week. And so to Jerry's point, what does that really mean? But Napier did try to play it off a little bit. Oh, this is what we try to do. This is normal, but you don't put Arch Manning's not on a pitch
If
count.
Arch Manning was on a pitch count, this chat would be miserably negative headed into
right.
This.
That to your point.
And I would be too.
So he tried to do that. I don't know if you can buy that, but at the same time, if he's healthy enough to throw 70 by football season, he'll probably be fine, right? So, anyways, long story short, a lot of folks around Florida very excited about this season because Lagway has really given that program juice. Yes, Jaden Ball is good. Yes, they have some good young players. Dallas Wilson, they think, is legit, the freshman wide receiver. They think he's just legit. So they have the offensive tools. Billy Napier's got to prove it a little bit. I will say that some Florida fans are not convinced Billy Napier is the right coach for their school. He made some apparently he's made some decisions that they just weren't on board with on the field. I'm not talking about this whole Jaden Rashada QB NIL brouhaha they got into a couple years ago. I'm talking about some on the field stuff. So
what do y'all think?
I
haven't watched Florida enough to tell you if he's not got it all there as a coach. I can't tell you that. I know that, I'll just echo what they said. There's some questions there from Florida media.
Yeah, and so with Lagway, one of the reasons I kind of raised the red flag on this was if he was a third-year starting quarterback and he had all this experience and he had all this continuity with his wide receiver core, them hold him out of spring for, whatever they call it, from his shoulder, I'd be like, okay, this is a guy that hasn't started a full season, had a bunch of new weapons coming in, Dallas Wilson, J. Michael Sturdivant out of the portal, yada, 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 other freshman receivers. And for them to shut him down once, but twice in the spring, that's a concerning thing if I'm a Florida fan. So it would almost put me in, I'll see it, I'll believe it when I see he's fully healthy. Because you don't do that with a young quarterback that hasn't started a full season and you have bringing in all these new wide receivers. We talk about it all the time. Well, Arch and the quarterbacks are conducting the throwing sessions with wide receivers. Well, the Florida quarterback can't do that. That's an issue. Let's see if he's fully healthy this year. If I'm Florida, I'm a little concerned right now because that's just the abnormal for a young quarterback.
All right, well, we're going to get to some super chats and some questions here in just a moment. But first, Bobby, I'm going to let you tell everyone out there about Flat Creek.
Yeah, absolutely. A local success story here, Flat Creek Estate Winery. They've been with us almost for a year now from a sponsorship perspective, and they keep raking in the awards. Neil, Eva, Sean, Eddie, they've done a tremendous job with Flat Creek Estate Winery. It's just a few minutes from the heart of Austin. Select bottles of the wines by Flat Creek Estate are now available at your local specs. Some are available at HEB. You can get a taste of what they're all about. Flat Creek Estate is a gorgeous venue hosting events for the whole family, all spring, summer, and fall. Celebrate Easter, celebrate anything, Father's Day, Mother's Day, etc. Anything, whatever, any kind of celebration you want to go out and just have a glass of wine, hang out, taste the different kinds, give it a shot. It's really close to Austin, about 30, 45 minutes. It's the closest winery to downtown. And their winemaker dinners are tremendous as well. Eat, drink, and be awesome at Flat Creek Estate. Congrats to their success getting into HEB specs, etc. For more info, visit flatcreekestate.com. That's flatcreekestate.com. Also, all Longhorns there with Neil and Eddie. So good stuff.
And I'm going to tell everyone about Timeline's Mito Pure. If I I can get the thing to come up there. There we go. If you work out, it's a supplement that you're going to want to add to your daily regimen because it supports your health at the foundation by encouraging cellular renewal. Even if you don't work out, MitoPure needs to be added to your daily routine because it's a precise dose of the rare postbiotic urolithin A. It works by promoting an essential cellular cleanup process that clears out your cell's battery packs. Now, there's a lot of products out there that claim to make you stronger. They claim to pack on muscle, whatever it may be. But Timeline's MitoPure is shown to deliver double-digit increases in muscle strength and endurance without a change in exercise. They don't just claim it, they deliver on it. And I can tell you that I personally love it because it helps me recover a lot more quickly. I can tell a tremendous difference with it. I also have a lot more energy because of it, which is obviously an added bonus. MitoPure is the research-backed innovation that unlocks your fullest potential. So awaken the strength, power, and resilience already in you with the first and only supplement that's clinically proven to rejuvenate health at the cellular level. And right now, Timeline is offering 10% off your order of MitoPure. All you have to do is go to timeline.com/ontexas. That's Timeline, TIMELINE.com/ontexas. Well, let's jump into some super chats here. And Drew Lockhart, we'll start with you. Thank you, Drew. He says, no more cannonballs. Well played, Jerry. And apologies to Joe Z.
That was Blake's great video work there. And that one was too easy in recruiting. I've never seen the cannonball in the pool be the final decision of a prospect.
Hey, Jerry, Richard Wesley is a reclassification, right? From 27 to 26. I wanted to ask you about a player that you wrote about this morning on Texas football. Mark Bowman, the tight end out of Mater Dei. Some people have crystal balls or RPMs into Georgia, some to Texas. It's like you said, it's marketing season. What is the latest on Mark Bowman? Because you wouldn't have written that today without a little insight, I guess is the best way to put it. I know how to read you, I guess is the way I'm asking. So I want you to share what you have with others at this point.
Well, I think what's interesting right now in recruiting is, and this is really what it gets down to with me a lot of times, there's a couple of schools that feel confident in recruitment headed into June. And I still think with Mark Bowman, from what I hear, Texas has some confidence and Georgia has some confidence, right? And I think that's where we're at with a lot of these recruitments. Look, Kendall Gerville, Texas has a lot of confidence there. Georgia thinks they're very much in it. So this is kind of where we're at. But I think with Bowman, the one thing that hasn't waned is Texas has some confidence in this recruitment. Am I saying he's going to end up at Texas? I'm not saying that. These recruitments have to play out. There's 5 official visits coming up. Well, some of them have already taken 1, 4 official visits remaining. But there's a number of guys that I think there's some confidence on, and Bowman is one of those guys. But again, whenever you say that, people are like, oh, well, they're OTF saying this guy's going to Texas. We're not saying that. But what we are saying is the confidence is not waned. And I don't think it's waned for Georgia either. So I think that these recruitments are in the balance. But I do think one thing that with Bowman's recruitment that hasn't changed, and maybe it changes last minute, is the day that he announced he was going to reclassify, I was flat out told this kid's going to go to Texas or Georgia at the end of the day. And that's never really changed. Now, he made an OV to Ole Miss. He's gonna visit Oregon and USC, and any of us would be dumb to just discount that. But the 2 teams you hear most about remain the same as the day he reclassed. And the question around that, becomes, what is this decision really going to come down to from a football perspective? Is, Texas have a better QB room? Tight end production. I mean, obviously Brock Bowers that's where all the Georgia talk began, because this guy's a tremendous prospect from the West Coast that plays tight ends, even though he's from the Colorado, goes to Mater Dei High, really good after the catch. There's similarities with those guys. I think there's differences too, though. I don't think they're an identical twin as a prospect. But Texas has a lot of things going for them in this recruitment. The father was born in Louisville. When they moved from Colorado, they came down to really 3 schools where they were going to transfer to or moved to, and it was Westlake, Southlake, Carroll, or Mater Dei. So there's obviously some ties to Texas. They've been to Texas multiple times. So we'll see where it heads. But we're in this stage of recruiting, and it normally gets to this point in June where a couple of schools have confidence. And I think that's exactly where we're at with Mark Bowman. And this is where it's been. It hasn't changed, which I think is kind of good for Texas and Georgia. And I'm not discounting a USC or Oregon at the end of the day, but the confidence hasn't changed in where this recruitment's eventually heading.
Jerry, his receiver highlights are kind of freaky. And by the way, this is another guy these are all sophomore highlights.
Right.
How big is he really? You've seen him in person because he was out at that camp or at the junior day or whatever. Is he really 6'4.5"?
Oh, yeah.
Broad shoulder.
Oh, yeah.
So he's an NFL pro.
No doubt. No doubt. Yeah.
Okay.
No.
So, some of those receiving highlights, it looks like he's 6'2", 210 because he's so athletic with it. And so I want to make sure his height and weight were kind of.
No, for sure. Yeah.
Okay.
It's legitimate with him. He probably weighs a little bit more than that right now. But he is six, I would say he's every bit of 6'4.5", 6'5".
Yeah, he's
Seth Alcoser said what would be his playing weight? 245, 250 when all said and done for him, I would think. When he's not, and that's not maxed out for him, but ideal playing weight for him, probably in that range.
Somebody asked if Texas was treating him as a must-get, in your opinion. Are there really must-gets these days? But obviously he's a priority.
Oh, yeah. 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 Oh, 100% a priority. So Woodcrest said Bowman chose Texas when he started at day one. I wouldn't say that. Look, I mean, and the same would be said at Georgia. Real competition wherever you go. In the case of Texas, well, that all depends on what Jack Injuries does. Does he have a great year and go pro? Where's Jordan Washington? What's Nick Townsend look like? I think Emory Winston obviously is going to be in that mix as well. Nick Townsend is a pretty special athlete at tight end. I mean, that I would not be willing to say that as talented as Mark Bowman is. That's real competition.
That's good. That's what you want, man.
Yeah.
That's what you want.
All right. Douglas Scott with the super chat. Thank you, Douglas. We appreciate it. He says, good morning, gentlemen. I love and respect football, but in high school, I was a track athlete, so I love track and field. Why is Texas not performing well in SEC track? Is it more resources, maybe a better coach needed, etc.?
I think track more than anything is recruiting, one. I mean, and then also constructing your team to maximize points with fewer athletes. Now, track gets more athletes when the House Settlement goes through. And so right now, these guys are saying, oh, you get half a scholarship here, and I can give you a quarter scholarship. And they're trying to gain points from really, it's about roster construction in track as well as recruiting the elite people. And I think that's where Texas has probably come up a little short. Because look, I mean, there are great track coaches. I don't want to sit here and say they're not. And there's some really good ones. And then there's probably some bad ones, like every sport. But track is one of those sports that a lot of it is just plain recruiting. And how you're constructing your team. I mean, that is track, in my opinion, is one of those sports that is like 90% of the game. Like, I wouldn't even say roster construction is 90% of football. Track, it's at least 90% of the game.
And the school that's really crushing track recruiting right now is Georgia from the men's side.
Yeah.
Georgia's, I mean, like if you look at their 2025 class, they crushed it.
Yeah.
All right, next super chat comes from Jack this morning. Thank you, Jack. He says, prayers for the Austinites still without power. That includes his best friend.
Yeah. Yeah, show those photos. Show that photo of it. I know some people, we've had hundreds of people join the show, Blake, since we started this morning. This is, Jerry, you said it's the left field wall of
left center field.
Dish.
Yeah.
Left center. Look at that, guys. Del Conte saying yet last night that it would be fixed in time for the regional that is going to be held on Friday. So they got a day to get it fixed. So we'll see if Texas in that is affected at all by that. But to Jack's point, bigger issue is hope everybody is okay in Austin, and nobody wants to be without AC in right now in Austin, and that especially older people. I had my parents go through that in one of the hurricanes that went through Houston, and that's just debilitating at an unbelievable level. So I hope Austin Energy Company gets that taken care of relatively quickly.
And then we have a super chat from Seth. Thank you, Seth. He says, Jerry and Bobby, what is the perfect mixture of additions for defensive line each class, especially with Jerry's thought that a blue blood should not be inexperienced?
Yeah.
So ideal, Jerry. Ideal.
Right.
Use the word ideal, and what do you think it should be?
I think 3 high school guys in each class. Because if you're taking 3 a year, that means you're recruiting a couple of early entry high school guys, which is where you want to be. You don't want all to be 4-year guys on the D line.
Are you thinking? Wait a minute. Are you including edge with the 3?
No.
Just interior.
Yeah. So look, I'm for oversigning on the D line by 1 every class. Whether that's an extra edge, whether that's an extra interior guy, whether that's kind of the Bryce Perry Wright type of prospect. I'm not saying he's going to Texas. I'm taking the prospect that can play an edge spot, can play a 5, as he gets older and matures into his body, can be like a 3-tech rusher in NASCAR package, right? I think you should oversign by 1 on the D line every year, especially in the SEC. I think that is smart recruiting. Then you have, ideally, you want to only have to go to the portal for 1 or 2 guys at D-line in a cycle. Because that means you're developing 3-year high school players that are off to the NFL.
Jerry and I are on the same boat. I wrote down literally right when they asked, I wrote 3 high school, 1 transfer. And to Jerry's point, to even go further, you want 1 nose, 1 big run stopper guy, 1 nose/3 technique, which is a guy that plays over the guard more, shoulder outside guard, and then a 3-5 technique, a guy that could also play end in a 3-man down. And so that ideally you want those 3, and then you want 1 transfer to come in and fit what positional need you have in that offseason. Texas did not recruit well on the defensive front, on the defensive tackle position for a number of years. Okay, for whatever reason. And so that's why right now, when you look at Texas, they signed 4 defensive tackles in the portal this offseason. There's a reason for that. Okay. They had to, because they're backfilling. That's not ideal. That's not ideal. We need to mention this while we have a chance, by the way. We mentioned defensive tackles. Who is our number 93 on the current roster, guys? It's Hero Canoe, defensive tackle transfer from Ohio State, now in Austin. He is a guy that's originally, is he from Sweden or Finland? I can't even remember. He's from Europe, originally signed with Ohio State out of high school, now at the University of Texas. He was a backup last year, small rotational player for the Buckeyes on their national championship team. Of course, he'll be playing for the Longhorns when Texas goes to Ohio State on August 30th. Guys, but the best 93 of all time, since we're 93 days away from Texas kicking off here, any doubt that it's T'Vondre Sweat? What do y'all think? T'Vondre Sweat, 93, Outland winner. I mean, there's been a lot of guys, but I think that's going to be the one I pick. Eric, hey, do you know who that is in the upper left, I think?
Yep.
Eric Holly.
That's Shay Holly's dad. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, no, I think for sure. Player, I think T'Vondre Sweat. But let me throw a question to the chat. Of all these 93s, who had the most impactful tackle in a game?
Oh, Stoney Clark against James Allen in the Texas OU game. Yeah, no doubt.
Stoney Clark had one of the most important tackles by a singular player.
Yeah, it was great play. The other thing I would say, add to that, back in my day, there was a kicker that wore number 93, Michael Pollock. So Stoney Clark, 93. You know, I want to say this. Yesterday, in the midst of having to go to the SEC or spring meetings and everything, there was a guy that played back when I was around that wore number 94 that I still know to this day. His name's Todd Hunt. And Todd, the reason I want to mention him, because we like to talk about what guys are doing nowadays. Todd coordinates a tailgate for former players at DKR on game days. And so I know a lot of people that like to go over there and hang out with Todd and the former players as well. So I want to mention him as a number 94. But there's the pose. Sweat for Heisman, baby. Sweat for Heisman. There's a lot of money between those two guys in that picture right there. Byron Murphy and Tavondre Sweat made some cash in their NFL contracts.
For sure. And thank you, Chris Bennett. Got that from your Twitter account this morning with all the 93s on there. So I want to give some credit where credit's due for sure.
Yes.
More super chats. Texas Operator 69 says, Anthony Hill, is he a lock for the Butkus? If not, can he improve?
Lock for the Butkus? No, he's not a lock. I mean, he's not a lock. There's some really talented backers coming back in college football. I mean, Suntarine Perkins, no matter what you call him, the guy had double-digit sacks at Ole Miss. Deontay Lawson at Alabama, really, really talented guy. Anthony Hill's right there with Anthony Hill may be the number one ranked guy going into the season, but lock for the award? No, not with Deontay Lawson, not with C.J. Allen at Georgia, not with Suntarine Perkins, Drake Bowen at Notre Dame, Whit Weeks if he comes back off his knee. I mean, there's some really talented backers in that class. Is he going to be right there for the award? I do think he will.
I want to add this. Iowa's going to have somebody that has 100 tackles. So my point to that and why I don't say he's a lock, it's not that he's not the most talented. Perhaps he is. That's probably debatable by some people. He also has to put up the stats. He has to put up some production. You're not going to win the Butkus if you have 60 tackles. So he needs to be healthy, needs to put some stats up, and go from there. But look, Sark was so matter of fact, Jerry and Blake. When we had him for that little small gaggle of reporters before he went into the main auditorium, I mean, it's just matter of fact. Oh, Anthony Hill's a great player, and Leon Galfau had a great spring. It was like Anthony Hill was. Yes, we all know who Anthony Hill is. So there's a lot of internal confidence, as there should be, around Anthony Hill and what he'll do this year. But I don't think anybody's a lock for a major award. Is Jeremiah Smith going to win the Biletnikoff, the wide receiver at Ohio State? You would think that he's the closest a lock can get. But what about the quarterback at Ohio State? Is he going to get him the ball enough?
Well, I mean, Bobby, that point, Ryan Williams or Jeremiah Smith, which quarterback is going to get them the ball in spots better this season? Because it's going to be a first-year starting quarterback for both those guys. They both lost their guy from last year.
And that's what I'm saying. So nobody, these preseason awards, you can have odds. I tell you where there could be locks more than any. It's where stats don't matter, like offensive line. I mean, stats really don't matter. Oh, you gave up 1 sack. Just don't give up 4. You know what I mean? It's a little different.
Hey, Bryson Bennett, any news on Tyler Atkinson? He'll likely visit Texas officially coming up here in June. Texas is a long shot in that one. in my opinion. Texas has a better shot at Xavier Griffin from Gainesville, Georgia, and Braden Rouse from Marietta Kell, those two linebackers from Georgia, than Tyler Atkinson. Now, things can change, but I'm saying right now, that's not one I'm betting on, but I do think he'll show up back in Austin in June. I think Georgia, Clemson, Ohio State are all ahead of Texas.
Super chat here from Jeff Carey. He says an SEC Big Ten weekend challenge would be big hype, big ratings, and big money.
Huge money. Huge. Look, ideally, this is the money that's left on the table for the SEC. Go to 9 conference games. Okay. Go to an SEC Big Ten challenge weekend. Okay. And then additionally, go to play-in games for the 3 versus 6, 4 versus 5 for the actual college football playoff. And then beyond that, extend the playoffs to 16 games. I mean, all of that is money left on the table right now for the SEC and their teams. I mean, that's a lot of wampum that's still out there that they can get that are just incremental dollars. Incremental dollars. So I'd be all for that.
Before we get to some more questions, I want to bring this up. CJ Vogel tweeted this out just a second ago, but Texas is showcased in the college football 26 official trailer reveal.
This is the EA Sports game.
From EA Sports, and you're going to see it here. You're going to see a little bit of the drone show. I'm going to play it along with Arch Manning hitting Mosley.
Hitting Emmett Mosley?
And then injuries was there for a second. It happened so quick, you got to watch quickly.
And Sark looks really slim on that play call.
Man, Sark was nice and tan this week. By the way, he wasn't sunburned. Lane Kiffin was just flat sunburned.
Yeah.
He looked like he had been at Cabo San Lucas for a week, and just baked. Sark was nice and tan. But no, that's interesting how EA Sports has already got Mosley in there, Jack injuries. I'm interested in, I love those kind of, what do you call it? Simulations, because it's just close enough to football to get me excited. That's probably the best way to put it.
I'm going to answer this one real quick. Is Texas still recruiting Bodney Cleveland out of Birmingham Parker? Absolutely. I kind of remain the same on him. I have been, I don't care what picks are being put out there on the kid. If he wants to go out of state, I think Texas and Florida and North Carolina is sleeper there. Texas or Florida will be the pick. Again, that's if he wants to go out of state. And there's been chatter about that, people I've talked to, definitely. But that's got to remain through decision time and then through signing day. But, yes, Texas very much recruiting Bodney Cleveland. It's interesting to see where some of these D-line battles are. There's a lot of Texas, Georgia, Texas, Florida in these D-line battles. Texas won't get them all. Florida won't go for all them all. There'll be some hits and there'll be some misses in them. There's too much on the line. I mean, these are real battle royale recruitments for these guys because it's not the national D-line class this year. And I'm not saying there's not talented players. It doesn't have the depth of top tier talent necessarily as the last class did. So that means there's even more on the line for the highly ranked D linemen this year, because if you swing and miss, the feeling is it's a drop off nationally compared to some of those guys. Whether that ends up being right or wrong in 4 years, it's where the people feel like it's at now and how they're going about recruiting these guys now. Obviously, there's going to be a number of 3-star D linemen ending up in the NFL draft, but that doesn't mean the here and now when these guys are going out and evaluating and finding the best guys right now. There's a little bit of a drop off. So these are big battles coming up in June.
We got a another super chat from Texas Operator 69. Thank you again. And he says, let's start a Jerry office fund, doing all these like it's Thanksgiving dinner. He deserves a home office. The Longhorn memorabilia.
I'm on the move a lot, guys. I'm on the move a lot.
It does look a little like Thanksgiving dinner, though.
Yeah.
It's a nice setup there. I like the plant coming out of your right ear.
It's Krista approved. She likes
it. I need a Christmas tree. I'm just going to year-round Christmas it.
Yeah, just have Krista come put 2 Christmas trees behind you, Jerry.
Yeah. We're going to have Bluebird organizing and Krista come out and fix this.
I love it.
All right, Jerry, your time to shine. Let everyone know about Vaughn Lane one last time.
Absolutely. Tired of the hassle on flying or driving? Skip the airport stress and highway headaches. Travel in first-class comfort with Vaughn Lane, the luxury motor coach service connecting major Texas cities. And now Vaughn Lane has expanded to the Southeast, offering routes between Nashville, Memphis, and Atlanta with spacious reclining seats, complimentary snacks and drinks on every trip, and meal service on select departures. Vaughn Lane makes travel stress-free and comfortable and less stressful on you. Need to relax? Enjoy hot towel service, eye mask, pillows, and blankets, all included. Stay productive with high-speed Wi-Fi and power outlets at every single seat. Upgrade your travel experience today. Visit VaughnLane.com and use promo code OTF25 for $20 off your first trip. That's Vaughn Lane, first-class travel without the hassle.
Thank you for that. And let's see here. More super chats that we need to get to. This one from Storytime Rewind True Crime. That's a mouthful, but thank you for your super chat. Sorry about the name, guys. I used to be on here as Q. Has the discovery of Spence made the move to linebacker for more null and void? And do you guys see us majoring in man or just be better at it when used?
Majoring in it. No. I don't think PK is going to go directly away from what he has to do. And I will say this. I think you could see a little bit more of it. But, I mean, it's okay to play zone if you're going to get to the quarterback. I mean, I don't know if they're going to major in it. I'll start there. As far as Spence and Moore, based on what Steve Sarkisian said 2 days ago when we talked to him, he likes them both, and he thinks there's a spot for both of them at linebacker. I got a real sense that Sark was excited about his linebacker room. Like, yes, he has Anthony Hill and Leon Galafau, but Brad Spence and Trey Moore add a little bit of that X factor of getting after the quarterback. So I don't think that it makes one, pointless or what have you. I just feel like I think they're going to use them all. I don't know how, and I don't know who's going to be the better of the group at any of that stuff, but I don't think Sark feels like they're null and void. I think he thinks you need pass rushers wherever you can get them. I mean, they went after David Bailey at Stanford out of the portal, even though they have Colin Simmons and Ethan Burke right now, who are 2 pretty good pass rushers.
Bobby, I was going to say how much Trey Moore plays linebacker, I think is going to depend on the health of Colton Vosick and Zena.
Yeah.
Colton Vosick missed the entire spring. Zena hurt his thumb, missed some of the spring. So the health at that position, I think at the edge position, is ultimately going to dictate Trey Moore's snap allotment.
Well said.
And our next super chat this morning comes from, if I can get the mouse to go, Trace Little. We actually have a pair of super chats from Trace Little. We'll start with this first one. Jerry, how many highs do we have, do you think?
I think there's probably 4, but there's only one I've actually set it on.
One you feel confident about.
Yeah.
Well, you know that it's happened is what you're saying, but I don't know that you're 100% confident he ends up at Texas because it's one of those big boy recruits.
There's just a lot. There's a lot of uncertainty right now with all this house settlement. There's just front-end NIL deals, front-end NIL deals. There's a lot of uncertainty right now. And I'm here to tell you, I think there's prospects that Texas is confident on, but they're not out there. You don't see Texas football recruiting starting a crystal ball page, do you? Because they know these are real recruitments. You don't see Steve Sarkisian putting out crystal ball picks, do you? I mean, they know these are real recruitments and these are battles that are going to be ongoing. They feel good about some guys, just like Georgia feels good about some guys that Texas is bringing in on OVs right now. It's going to be a back and forth. These are real. This is where you want to be because Texas is literally battling Ohio State, Georgia. I mean, just think about Damari Simeon for a second, the D lineman out of New Jersey, who I think is a tremendous prospect, by the way. And he's just not a camp guy. He's not a social media guy. So he's just not out there as much. Tremendous prospect. Texas is one of 4 OVs. The other 3 are Ohio State, Penn State, and Michigan. I mean, he had a great unofficial visit to Texas. Texas is in that. Would you feel confident if you're Texas, though? You're literally battling Ohio State, Penn State, and Michigan on a kid from New Jersey. So, and if you're Ohio State, even though you get the last visit, you're like, man, that kid really had a great visit to Texas. Now he's going back for an official. You kind of are a little weary. I mean, I think recruiting in this cycle, because of House Settlement, because of how people are attacking NIL with the front-loaded deals, are pretty interesting and a little different. That these college and Kirby talked. I mean, these college coaches are talking about it. They're navigating it. Bobby, it seems to be a little different every cycle right now.
It is a little different. I mean, because the rules are changing. The one thing I would say about what you called marketing season and all these crystal balls, I mean, as a guy that used to cover recruiting nationally, like I did and like you did, Jerry, one of the things I will say is that some guys that put in those crystal balls from a national perspective have stronger contacts at some schools than others. And so that viewpoint oftentimes comes out in the crystal balls and their selections. So while it's presented as this unbiased thought, there is some bias inherent in it. I'll just put it that way, because the person putting them in doesn't have perfect information. Nobody does. So I would just, a couple of these I would challenge. That's all.
And this stuff changes quicker, more on a dime nowadays because of NIL than it ever has before.
Yep. Completely agree.
All right. Trace Little's other super chat says it's the best overall set of recruiters / coaches we have had on staff currently. And have any recruits mentioned Akina?
That's hard to say for me, Trace. I mean, Mac's first staff at Texas had Mac, Tim Brewster. I mean, Darryl Dre. I mean, Mac and Tim Brewster were as good as it was in college football for a while, head coach. And
Everett Withers was a really good recruiter early too.
Yeah.
I would challenge that a little bit, but I think that I think that Texas is doing a better job recruiting than they ever have right now. From my life, not necessarily my lifetime, but in the last 35 years since I've been covering it, I actually think they're evaluating more thoroughly. And now the entire industry is evaluating more thoroughly now as well. So there's that ramp up that's kind of natural with more personnel. And but I think Texas is recruiting at a higher level more consistent level than they ever have. So whether that's because of recruiters independently or tied in with the evaluation staff, I'm not sure. But never in my wildest dreams did I think, and I mentioned this the other day, did I think that Texas would be going up against Georgia for more recruits than they would be going up against A&M or Oklahoma. Never in my wildest dreams, Jerry. Like, you could have convinced me that maybe one year LSU might be there. Okay. You can't convince me that now. I mean, and that's based on your research. I mean, more players that Texas is recruiting and have official visits lined up for, what, 55, 56 right now?
Yeah.
15 of them or so also have visits lined up to Georgia. That's the most of any other school. And that's just, that's a different level, guys, than Mac. And so I do think that some kids do mention Akina. Yaheem Riley, there's no doubt that was that was a factor in his recruitment. Now, Kenoto Hudson did a really good job of recruiting him, and he is more of the recruiter. Akina is not out on the road, so he's a guy that once you get on campus for the official visit or unofficial visit, he kind of goes through stuff with you. So, but I think it's a very, very good recruiting staff. It's definitely the most thorough Texas has ever had from both a recruiting and evaluation.
I think their in-house staff, the whole setup is light years beyond where it's ever been.
Yep.
But it has to be.
Earls does a good job on getting him on campus. Brandon Harris and his group do a great job with evaluating and making inroads.
Look, when we always talk about the assistant coaches and whatnot, but when you're and CJ would probably say the same thing. When you're around Moncrief, around the recruiting events weekends, you see if somebody's really organized. You can tell if there's great organization. Taylor Searles does a great job with organization, and that's not a job that you ever going to get a lot of credit for, but bad organization can really cost you. And you can just tell being around it, everything's really well organized, and that's so important because it goes into the overall experience for a family.
She is by the way, Taylor Searles, for those who don't know, is the daughter of former Texas offensive line coach and current Georgia offensive line coach Stacy Searles.
Yeah.
I also want to mention Chris Gilbert, Jerry. He's kind of one of those guys that plays almost an ad hoc role within Sark's ecosystem, and he's had some really key recruiting wins. Justice Terry among them, I think. So I think that this is a complete staff from a recruiting perspective. Definitely more complete than Mac ever had. But, this is a different age too now where, a lot of people can recruit, whereas back then it was just the off-field assist or the on-field assistant.
By the way, Randy, I'm actually interested to see if the Lambos are going to make their way back this June or not. I'm going to go with not, but I could be wrong on that.
Ooh. I think something's going to make Sark likes a little display now.
Now, some people say, why would you change? You just signed the number one recruiting class in the country. But we'll see.
Manscaped's Jerky Fund with the super chat says if the left field wall is fixed in time for the regional, we could ask A&M to use their field since they are not using it.
Well, I mean, here's the question: if A&M fired early today, could Texas hire him this tomorrow and he'd be part of that, so he could finally be part of a winning season here?
Oh, wow.
Do you have to wait the 7 days, or could you just add him to the staff immediately?
Texas does not have a current spot. By the way, Early's tenure
Special assistant.
He's still up in the air, right? So we'll see how that's going. I wanted to say this as it relates to that they've used the Dell Diamond before up in Round Rock. Don't forget about Texas State as well.
So people are saying Dell Diamond's book. Does that mean minor league baseball or have something else going on?
Minor league.
Probably, yeah.
It's minor league.
But there are ways that things can happen. So let's see what happens over the next 24 hours. Obviously, Chris Del Conte had some confidence last night. Let's see if he has that same amount of confidence today. Of course, we're talking about Dish Falk after the really bad inclement weather over the week or over last night that brought a lot of hail and thunderstorms and caused some in Austin still to be without power this morning. It hurt a little bit of the Texas ball field last night. So that they've got to get some cleanup done and reconstructing done in the next 24 hours before Texas can start the Austin regional.
Yes, roll left. I can do that. Texas is still recruiting Derek Cooper out of Chaminade, Madonna, and Texas is still working to get an OV. It looks like it'll be a midweek OV right now. It does not look like it'll be weekend. Obviously, he's at Miami this weekend, and, the Jackson Cantwell recruitment takes center stage.
Yeah.
How they beat Georgia on that one. So,
all right, 2 more before we get out of here. Another one from Drew. Thank you again, Drew. He says, we talk about offensive line and how dominoes fall with 6 or so guys. How possible is it to sign 2 highly recruited linebackers in the same class, such as Griffin and Rouse?
It's very possible. I mean, I don't know that Rouse is in the same category ranking as Xavier Griffin. Is he, Jerry?
No, he's not as highly ranked, and I'm not even sure positionally they're the same, because I think Griffin is the hybrid linebacker edge, and I think Rouse is more of a traditional linebacker. So I think you can have both those guys in the same class. The question is, could you have Braden Rouse and Kosi Paul in the same class? For me, very simple. I mean, if Texas takes 3 linebackers, what will those 3 linebackers be? And here's the other thing: it's not given that there's an inside linebacker in this class, so it could be 2 linebackers and a hybrid, essentially. They're all the same body types, though, that Texas is recruiting in this class outside of Tank King.
And our final one from Hell No. Thank you for your super chat. How many punts will Texas have this football season? What is the average for an SEC team for a regular season?
Wow.
I will tell you, Texas punted 51 times last year.
That is I honestly have never looked up how many. The OU guy punted 60 times last year, which they had no offense. Florida punted 59 times last year. Tennessee 53.
I got the average.
Vandy and Alabama punters both had 51. You have the average, Blake?
I have the average. The average punt count for SEC teams in the 2024 season was 47.2 punts per team.
Okay. So 4 a game. If you're no, it's over 4 a game because of playoffs. So you're looking at probably 3.7, 3.8.
It's a great stat, actually, if you think about it, but I've never looked at it that way. I've always looked at success scoring averages.
Obviously punts per game have gone down because more teams are going for it on fourths. Those punt numbers have gone down in the last decade because more people are playing analytics games on 4th downs, for sure.
So the new stat, it's not a new stat, excuse me. The stat that a lot of analytics people look at for efficacy of your offense is points per possession. So that is a stat that they feel is very, very meaningful to talk about the power of your offense. Points per possession. I don't know where Texas stands on that off the top of my head. When people ask, we'll do some research maybe and come up with some of that.
And just really FYI, the most the Horns have punted under Sark was actually his first season at Texas, and the Longhorns punted 59 times.
That's very believable.
And all of them came in the second half.
Very believable.
Those games. Or at least it felt like it, that's for sure.
I'm going to look up how many punts did Michael Dixon have at Texas?
in a single year.
I'm looking this up right now.
Overall, which one?
Oh my gosh! In 2015, he had 77. Hey guys, in 2017, he punted 84 times.
226 during his 3-year career.
84 times in 2017. Wow.
He led the team in total yardage by far.
He would have been the biggest NIL earner on that team, probably.
51 to 84. I'd say the offense has improved just a smidge.
Yeah.
Wow. That's a huge number.
Holy cow.
He had 4,000 yards in punts in 2017.
Vanderbilt punted,
39-84 to
you
be
just told me Vanderbilt punted 57 times last year. Texas punted 84 in a single year.
Now that just made me look at something while y'all do something else.
That is nuts.
Because
Holy cow.
I'm guessing Shane Leckler for RC Slocum had an 80 punt season too.
By the way, Vanderbilt punted the most in the SEC. They had 58. However, it was Iowa had the most punts last season with 76.
That fits. That fits in my mind based on Iowa's offense historically.
100%.
You know, punt and play defense, baby.
So we've been pretty lucky for us in the state of Texas that we've had two of the greatest punters of all time, in Michael Dixon and then Shane Leckler. So I just looked this up and I can't find the year to year. Shane Leckler punted 253 times at Texas A&M. So I guarantee you, I was at a game, oh gosh, when I went with some high school there's some high school coaches that it was A&M played at Rice. And I swear Leckler punted 12, 13 times in that game. A&M couldn't get a first down against Rice. I think it was like a 10-0 game or something like that. And I'm going to try to find the year-to-year stats. But we've been blessed in this state. We've had two of the best all-time punters that come through here. For those that love punting like I do, Ray Lockey, Rutgers punted 95 times in 2016.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for today's episode of Coffee and Football, presented by Vaughn Lane. I want to thank them along with Flat Creek and, of course, Timeline for sponsoring today's show. Bobby, what's later today?
Later today, we have football theory coming, or actually bases loaded on Thursday, because you got to preview the regional today, Blake. So we'll do that. We also have the winning drive, Rod Babers, Coach Shipley, CJ Vogel will be along. And then we'll be talking about news and notes coming up on the big recruiting weekends ahead, as well as a couple of young quarterbacks for the class of 2027. And also thank y'all, as Sarah O put it, about the 82,000 now followers on YouTube. Appreciate you guys very much. And just tell people about On Texas Football if you don't mind. And we'll keep growing this thing as much as possible. Come join us over on the message boards as well. If you like to talk Texas football during the day, on texasfootball.com. Thanks also to our sponsor, Vaughn Lane. Get on the bus.
That's right. Well, we will be back same time, same place tomorrow. So for Bobby Burton